commit evils in God's eyes are not beyond redemption. I'm gonna have to go back to town in a bit, mate, to sort some business out.
I don't want to go, Richard.
You don't have to.
What did you do to him? What did you do?
I don't want to go to the house.
It's Anthony's brother, isn't it? It's Anthony's brother.
You know the lads had this ridiculous idea that...
Yeah, it was me.
Making me very nervous, Richard.
Well, you should be.
If I were you, I'd get in that car and I'd get out of here, man. Because I'd hit you all.
Today's Film Club presentation is Shane Meadows' 2004 film, Dead Man's Shoes. Shane Meadows first exploded onto the British independent film scene in 1997 with the film 24/7. A low-budget British boxing movie starring Bob Hoskins and a cast of unknowns, it was loosely based on personal experience, much like its follow-up, A Room for Romeo Brass in 1999. Both films got great reviews from UK critics, and Meadows looked set to be the next big thing. His next film was Once Upon a Time in the Midlands, a gentle spoof of Western conventions transposed onto a Midlands community. It seemed to signal the end of Shane Meadows the artist and the start of Meadows as a sort of gun for hire. Luckily, the film's tepid reception made Shane Meadows rethink his career for the better.
You were aware that you kind of couldn't go wrong really in terms of it, you know, because of the people that were in it, it was going to make a certain amount of money. There was no risk. And in actual fact, I felt like I lost everything. I thought there was nothing at stake, and through having nothing at stake, I kind of lost my way. And I think the thing with Dead Man's Shoes is that when you go back to working with, like you say, inexperienced actors or people with very little training, this could be their first and their last film. And so when they come on with that hunger, and I approached it with a hunger that was like, actually, I might have actually lost what people liked about me. Can I get it back? There's that thing of like, sounds like a boxer coming back for a, trying to get the crown back again. You know, you've got all these people hailing you as one thing, and then you make something that maybe doesn't quite fit what they expect of you, and the knives come out, and you know, it is very difficult to deal with because all of this great white hope talk, you know, you mentioned as a darling of British cinema, and you believe the crap, you know, you take all that bullshit and think, oh, you know, I've got a right to be here, but you actually have to earn it every time, and that's what I've learned.
Reinvigorated, Meadows went back to basics for a savage and blackly comedic look at a brother's revenge.
Ultimately, on top of the list, Dead Man's Shoes is about justice, and not justice of the government or of the police, human justice, justice of the heart. And if it actually came home to your door, you know, is basically, would you be able to live with it? And Dead Man's Shoes is about that human justice that most of us do turn away. Most of us manage to make logic of it and move on with our lives.
He ain't going away, fellas. He's got to get done.
God will forgive them. He'll forgive them and allow them into heaven. I can't live with that.
The film was co-written by its star, Paddy Considine, but for the other roles, Meadows again cast unknowns or first-time actors. For the part of the psychotic gangster Sonny, he cast ex-light middleweight boxing champion Gary Stretch, and the part of the brother went to unknown actor Toby Kebbell.
So Toby comes over, I've told him on the phone, you know, he's got 2 hours before he has to come, and it's like, you know, you've got to play a mentally handicapped guy, and you've got about 2.5 hours to work on it on the train. And I thought what's going to turn up is like a full-bore Quasimodo character. You know, I thought, well, I'll be able to pull him down, and I thought he'd go right over the top to begin with, and I'll start working with him. But when he actually came through the door, he'd got it absolutely nailed.
Do you remember when you came to our school and did that run, Richard?
I do, yeah.
Good day that was, wasn't it?
It was a guy that was just ever so slightly more simple, you know, not so quick on the uptake, you know, and he'd got this guy that was so much more subtle than what I was expecting to walk through the door. It's someone that's not that dissimilar to anybody else that's walking the street, but in the wrong hands, that can be abused.
The following true story, as told by Meadows himself, perhaps like nothing else sums up the director's entire career. Not just because it's what set him on his way to becoming a filmmaker, but also because it's an event that seemed to shape all the elements that make him so good. Guilt, anger, violence, suspense, moral conflict, and of course, bittersweet comedy.
There was one guy that I hung around with in particular that I looked up to him like a father, and I hung around with him all the time, and I always was going on at him about seeing men fight and all, you know, who's the hardest guy in the town and reputations and all of that, and become obsessed with earning a reputation myself. And one night he said, well, you know, if you want to see a proper scrap, I'll take you to see one. I've got a guy that's, you know, called me a fat bastard or something, and I owe him one, and you know, and he sort of said to me, I'll take you to see this fight. So I'm walking up the flats, holding his coat, and he taps on the door, and I'm all charged up, you know, ready. I'm thinking I might get involved, you know, kick him or whatever. And anyway, this woman answers the door, and she's Down syndrome. What I wanted to sort of happen to do was this big thug to answer the door, you know, and you know, almost be bigger than my hero. My hero have to overcome him. But what actually answered the door was a Down syndrome girl holding a baby. For the first time in my life, I was in a bit too deep, and I was like, oh man, you know, let's leave it, let's go. And I didn't want it to happen because I knew I'd push for it, you know, and felt responsible. But anyway, you could see he was right into doing it, and had gone too far. So he says, oh, you know, is your man in? And she calls him through. And before he has a chance to sort of get right up to the front door, your skinhead's in through the door, bang, knocks him straight out with one punch. And this guy was clean unconscious on the floor, but that was just the beginning of it. He was dragged into a corner. His head was balanced between, you know, in a sort of right angle of a corner of a wall, and he basically stamped down on his face, just booted the fuck out of him for about 20 minutes, just beat the fuck out of him. And I stood there and I couldn't move, not because I was addicted to it, I was just frozen. I'd never seen anger like that. The thing that stayed with me more than any of the fight was actually what happened afterwards. He goes into the kitchen, gets a pint of water, comes out, chucks it over the guy's face, slaps him round. It's dead kind to him now. It's like, you know, Kev mate, you know, Kev, can you hear me mate? You know, and it's like, ugh. He's like, yeah, I'm just going now. Do you want me to turn your chips off and your such and such? I'll go and turn the cooker off, shall I? Do you want the telly leaving on? You know, it was like, oh my, it was disturbing. And so you'd kind of had this incredible rage followed by this kind of bittersweet comedy afterwards, you know. And so anyway, he comes out, I give him his coat back, and I pretend that I've enjoyed it. And it was the hardest performance I've ever had to give in my life. And the 2 or 3 weeks that follow that is me starting to actually pull away from those people, because it's something inside me had been so disturbed by what I'd seen and repulsed by the fact that I'd wanted it, that I actually genuinely believe that night was the beginning of me becoming what I am today.
Dead Man's Shoes was voted number 27 in Empire magazine's 100 Best British Films Ever Made, and Toby Kebbell was also nominated Most Promising Newcomer at the British Independent Film Awards. Shane Meadows' career was back on track. Startling skinhead drama This Is England would soon follow. But for now, sit back and enjoy Dead Man's Shoes.
Sorry. You know who I am? You're the devil.